how do you break the habit of drinking? How do you ensure that you get through this challenge? How do you break the habit of always reaching for the wine or the beer or going out and having the drink? Do you need to replace it with a new habit? Well, we've got someone here who's got the answer. He's an expert on habits. James Clear. He writes about how to build habits that stick, the science of building good habits, how to break bad habits, and how to master your mental and physical performance. James, how are you, mate?
Hey, doing well. Thanks so much for having me.
Great to have you here, James. So how does the viewer break their habit of wanting to drink alcohol?
Yeah, it's a great question. There are a variety of things that we need to understand first about how habits work and how our behavior is driven in a certain direction. So the first thing to understand is that based on the research I've done and the research that I've studied over the last few years, we often don't understand how big of an impact environment has on our behavior. And usually when we think about environment, we think about the people that we surround ourselves with and lines like you're the average of the five people you spend the most time with, things like that. That's all true for sure. The people that you're surrounded by, if you're surrounded by other drinkers, then it's going to be much harder for you to stop drinking just because you have those environmental cues. But what is also true is that the physical environment around us dictates our behavior in many ways. So take, for example, the common living room. If you were to walk in, all the couches and chairs face the television. So it's like, what is that room designed to get you to do, right? It's designed to get you to watch TV. So often people will be like, oh, I come home from work and I watch too much TV. Well, if you adjusted the way the room was oriented, you may have fewer stimuli driving you toward that. I'll give you another example. BJ Fogg is a professor at Stanford University. He writes about behavior change as well. And he wanted to eat less popcorn. He didn't want to stop eating popcorn. He just wanted to eat less of it. So he took it out of his pantry, walked down the hallway and went into his garage, climbed up on the ladder and put the popcorn on the highest shelf in the garage. Now, if he really wants it, he can just walk out and get it, right? It's only going to take 30 seconds.
Right.
But if he's designing for his lazy decision, if he's designing for his default action, he's not going to go get the popcorn.
Yeah.
And this is the basic idea, the first step that you can take when it comes to breaking the habit of drinking. How can you design the environment around you so that your default actions, so that your lazy behaviors are more likely to be the good things and less likely to be the bad things? So
yeah,
the basic concept is just remove the steps between you and the good behavior and increase the number of steps between you and a bad behavior. If you had someone who wanted to smoke, for example, and they had a pack of cigarettes on the table, there are virtually no steps between them and that habit, right? They have to rely purely on willpower. But if there are no cigarettes in the household and they have to get in a car and drive 5 miles to the nearest store to buy some, there are many more steps between them and that behavior.
Right.
So by increasing that difficulty level in the physical environment, you make it easier to stick with the habit.
So let's give an example then in the physical environment. The person who's watching and listening to us right now, James, is obviously in the challenge, wanting to make sure that they don't drink, want to accomplish this goal of getting 30 days without drinking alcohol. What can he or she do to change his or her physical environment specifically related to alcohol?
Sure. So obviously the easiest solution is either A, don't buy new alcohol, so you're not bringing it into the environment, or B, if you have an alcohol and you can just throw it away or get rid of it or give it to a friend, go ahead and do that, right? Remove it entirely from the environment. However, that's not going to be feasible for everybody, right? If you live with someone else, you have roommates who have alcohol that's in the, in your apartment or in your home. One thing that you can do, and this has been proven by a variety of food researchers, and a good book to read if you're interested in more of this kind of mindless automated design for habits, is Mindless Eating by Brian Wanstinkt. And one of the strategies he talks about in there has to do with the power of visual cues. And so it's how seeing things visually drives our behavior. So for example, if I walk into the kitchen and I see a plate of cookies on the counter, I'm going to eat them. I don't even need to feel hungry, right? It's not even really about me like wanting them or desiring them or craving them. I'm just responding to the visual cue. I see it and I'm like, oh yeah, I'll eat it. Right. The same thing can happen with alcohol, right? It's like you walk in, you see it on a shelf, you see it sitting in your kitchen somewhere. So how can you remove that visual cue? Maybe that means you can throw it out entirely. Maybe it just means you put it on a lower shelf in the pantry so that it's hidden. Maybe it means that you cover it you put it in a brown bag and put it on the top shelf in the pantry. Yeah. Maybe it means you put it behind a closet, or you put it in a box and take it to your spare bedroom.
Right.
Any of these are possible solutions.
Okay, I like that. So remove alcohol from the house altogether, or if you're going to keep it in there because your husband or your wife or your partner or whoever it is you live with drinks alcohol, put the wine in a different place where you can't see it or where you're less likely to see it. And maybe there's a little bit of negotiation going on with your partner as to like, oh, for these 30 days, would you mind if we put the wine, we move the wine cabinet, or we put a blanket over the wine cabinet or something like that, right, James?
Sure. Anything like that. Another common one is, and this has to do with visual cues as well, but things that are closer to eye level are more likely to be consumed. So, for example, if you go to a supermarket, all the items that are on the shelf by eye level or the top shelf tend to be purchased more than the items that are on the bottom shelf. Well, something has to go on the top shelf. So why don't you make it the good choices, right? Like put the healthier foods up there, tuck away the less healthy foods, tuck away the alcohol, put it lower or more out of sight. So those are a variety of ways to optimize the environment for that.
I like that. So put healthy foods and healthy liquids at eye level. What about in the fridge? When you go down, most of the time you're kind of like you're moving down. So let's just do it now as an example in my fridge.
Sure.
I'll put it on my view. There we go. So we're going to have a look in my fridge. It's pretty healthy. Although I did some filming in here yesterday. So I'm now bending down. I'm going to be in there. I've got sauerkraut. I've got some coconut milk. I've got some ginger, some lemon. I've got over here, I've got some chia seeds and some fish oil, some grass-fed butter. And I'm bending down this. Now up here, I've got a little bit of wine because I had a housewarming party. I don't drink. I haven't drunk in over 5 years, but I had a housewarming party. So here I'm bending down. I don't know if you can see me, James, but I'm crouching down. So how would I optimize my fridge?
So I think there are two things to do. So the first is where the wine is located now is actually pretty good, because if you look at it how you normally look in the fridge, you're not going to be crouched down the way the computer screen is now, right? You'll probably be standing maybe you're crouched a little bit, but maybe 4 feet above the ground or something like that. So if the wine is tucked away on that top shelf, especially if it's back a bit, you often won't be able to see it from where you're looking in, right? From your
I can't see it. I kind of, to get down the fridge, I bend down like this and I can kind of see it. But if I stand up like this, I'm looking from this, I can just see.
There you go. So that angle, right, it's hidden a little bit. So basically, if you could tuck it back on a top shelf like that, the other area that I've found is pretty good is on the very bottom shelf at the very, very back.
Okay, so
and so
you mean down here all the way?
Yeah, like back there. So the reason that works fairly well sometimes.
So here's a bottle of wine here.
Yeah.
And I put that in the back like that?
Right. Yeah. Or you can even lay it against that back wall, whatever works best. But the reason that works fairly well is that sometimes, like, you have a crate of eggs there, right? So like if you have some eggs on the middle shelf or something covering it up, you actually can't see the back corner of the bottom shelf because of the food on top of it. So it's like a little hiding place. And I found that it sounds so crazy, but just having beer, see where your water pitcher is, like in the front of that back shelf. So if I have a 6-pack sitting there, I'll pick it up and drink it. If I have it pushed in the back behind like the water pitcher, I often won't drink it.
Right.
It'll sit there for weeks before I get back to it.
Right.
So anyway, very small things like that, but by removing the visual cues, make it more likely to follow through.
I like that a lot. So don't buy alcohol, remove the alcohol, or if you are going to keep alcohol in the house and maybe you're just, after you've done the 30 days, you're reducing the amount of alcohol that you're going to drink, and remove the visual cues, as James says. Put it on the lower shelf, put it out in the garage, remove anything from eye level. Just do anything you can to remove those visual cues, and that's going to help break the habit of just instinctively reaching for alcohol at the end of a day when you're a little bit stressed out from after you come home from work. Does that sound about right, James?
Yeah, it removes an additional external stimulus that drives the behavior. You cut down the things that are triggering the habit, so it's more likely to avoid it. The one thing I would add about the not buying alcohol, very true, definitely will work well. If you're looking for a challenge when you go to the grocery store that could help make it easier, often grocery stores and supermarkets are organized in a way so that the organic food or the produce, the meats are all in the outer ring, and all the processed foods are down aisles. Usually alcohol is included. It has like an aisle to itself. So you can kind of play a game with yourself. I do this sometimes when I go to the grocery store. I'm only allowed to walk around the outer edge. I'm not allowed to walk down any aisles. And so by not walking down the aisles, you don't have to see all these drinks and then avoid buying them. Just another way to kind of cut down on that.
So the healthiest foods in the supermarket are just on the outer rim of
Generally speaking, because all the processed and boxed foods are stacked in the aisles.
You're absolutely right. Yeah, that's a good little game. I like that game. Well, James Clear, thank you so much. This has been enlightening. JamesClear.com is where you can find more about James. If you want to learn more about habits, you want to get in more depth regarding this, check out JamesClear.com so you can break your habits, obviously, and so you can create new habits. But this has been great. James Clear, thank you very much.
You bet. Thanks.
And to you, keep going. Lose weight, feel better, sleep better, get better skin. Keep going. We're here for you. All right. See you soon.
Hi there, this is James Swanwick. Thank you so much for listening to the show. I would be so grateful if you would leave a review. That will help us climb the rankings and get our show exposed to so many more people who could really benefit from the content. You can do that by going into Apple Podcasts, rating the show, writing a little one-sentence summary, and posting it. That would be so amazing. Thank you. Likewise, if you would like to schedule a 15-minute exploratory call and apply for our Project 90 program, then you can do so by going to alcoholfreelifestyle.com/project90. If you'd like to get the free guide, that is the Alcohol Freedom Formula Guide, you can go to alcoholfreelifestyle.com/guide. Our YouTube channel is at alcoholfreelifestyle.com/YouTube. You can follow me on Instagram and TikTok at James Swanwick. Thank you so much for listening. We so appreciate you, and we'll catch you on the next one.